Issues, challenges, and way forward is our major talking point on our network service this morning. Let's quickly start up as we look at the subsidy removal and how it affects daily lives. Of course, we have with us in the studio, he's a legal practitioner and he's still a civil rights activist. Let's welcome Israel Adodo Esquire. Thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And joining us right from the States is Dr. Kenwa Obaseki. He's a global affairs analyst. And, well, we had to wake him up this morning to join the conversation. Thank you for coming, Dr. Kenwa.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll still be having Dr. Emmanuel Osoteke, that's also joining us all the way from Lagos. We'll establish connection with him in a moment. But let's quickly start. The issue of subsidy has been something that some persons actually felt is overflogged. But whether we like it or not, is an issue that needs constant address. Now, from your own end, as an individual, how has that affected you?
You see, the issue of subsidy, that's why I will never agree with anyone who think it has been overflogged. Because it's an issue that affects us every day. And as such, it's something we should give a close marking to. When you look at it, all the feelings we were given, why the subsidy was removed and all of that is different from what is on the ground as we speak. For instance, it was believed that upon the removal of subsidy, with time, the prices will regularize, and if you are not careful, it may even go below what we have before because there will be competition and all of that. But today, we are surprised to see that even the prices are going up. We are expecting that, okay, if it was around 500, it should not go beyond. But as we speak now, we have people selling for 6-something, we have some selling for close to 700, depends on your state. So I think it's a subject that we must give rapt attention to. We must follow up. Now, I have checked and I've noticed that subsidy is not peculiar removal. It's not peculiar to Nigeria. Between 2010 and 2022, we've had countries, Africa, outside the continent, that have also removed subsidy. India has done that. Indonesia have done that. In Africa, Egypt have done that. Morocco have done that. But there are some systems that bettered the reform. And it is surprising that what we are seeing in Nigeria is radically different. In those countries, we saw that the removal was driven by some specific policies. One of them was strong political leadership. What that means is that if you are saying subsidy is being removed, the leadership must do something to show some signs of seriousness. And one of such is cutting down the cost of governance. Outside that, we have effective communication, that the people are continually be updated, educated, to know what is happening. But our whole system appears also different. And thirdly was social security. So, upon removal of fuel subsidy, the people should see that their interest have been looked at. But what we are seeing today, it appears the Nigerian system was not ready for it. If they are ready, we hear now that they are disbursing up to the tune of 5 billion, right, to states. Now, if that money has become suddenly available, what was the need? What was the essence of going for loan? No, let's talk about of going for loan initially to cushion the effect. If you had a plan, now because when you do fiscal policy, you could predict that if this thing is removed, this amount of money could be scoped. And so you tell people to hold on for 1 month or 2 months because we are trying to gather something, and with it, we can get back to the people. But the Nigerian system borrowed immediately for whatever purpose. We don't also know what the money was used for. But now we are now aware that a lot of money have been gathered and is being given to state. And we are not being sure of what to be done with it. In those other crimes I've measured, upon the removal, targets were given. This is what will be realized. This is what it will be spent on. Yes, this is what it will be spent on. In countries like India, for instance, such money was used for renewable energy, rural electrification. It was drawn out. It was expected this is what we will get for this season. And once it comes, this particular community, the light system will be brought up, and that's how it should run.
Okay, let's quickly get to Dr. Kenwa Obaseki now, who is joining us from the States. Dr. Kenwa Obaseki, you have been in the States for years, close to 3 decades now, if I'm not mistaken. Now, take us through, looking at what you have there and what we have currently on ground, do you think the government of the day have the capacity to drive this subsidy removal to a standstill?
No.
Quickly take us through. Take us through.
I think the government is going the wrong direction. They should reinstate the subsidy right away. I mean, as soon as he got into power, the first thing he did was to remove the subsidy. You know, you want to kill the rat, but not the pot. And that's what the government is doing. In every nation, the subsidy is part of the government program to resuscitate or to drive the economy. But energy is key to the survival of any economy. And Nigeria is going the wrong way. The problem of subsidy is not the problem. The cabal, those who are benefiting, they are the problem. You have the cabal not just in the energy area, you also have them in the agricultural sector. And so as long as you have them, you know, tampering and negating the sources of the federal program, Nigeria is going to continue to suffer especially what the country is going through now. That was in the country when this subsidy was removed. All of a sudden, the petroleum jumped from 220 something to almost 500 and something naira. I mean, who does that? That's a killer. Left with me, I would reduce the price of fuel to 100 naira per liter. The government has to subsidize, you know. That's the part the government needs to play to drive the economy.
But don't you think? But don't you think you live in a state where almost everything is subsidized for you, and that has to do with the proactiveness of the government of the day. But back here we have a lot to put in place. If you revert the pump price to 100 naira, won't it affect the economy in a way?
No, it will not. It will not. It will. You will gain it in other sectors, such as the production. The productivity will go up.
Okay, Dr. Kenwa, we'll get back to you in a moment. We'll get back to you in a moment. Let's return back to the studio and speak with Israel Adodo. Now, you talked about cutting down cost of governance. Do you think that is the best bet at this point?
Yes, it will go a long way in cushioning the effect of what is the pressure on our income. It will go a long way in doing that, because the truth still remains that Nigeria is one of the countries in the world where the cost of governance is so exorbitant. And if nothing, it's not being discussed, because those who should discuss it are those who benefit from it. You get it? So some persons can even make all the noise about it, but once they get there and they discover that some of the benefits that they are to get, they keep quiet on it. Now, let me just also add to what Mr. Obaseki have said concerning the system. You see, to some extent, I still agree with him that subsidy removal was not really the problem. Because if you looked at it, the only strong reason that this government has advanced on why subsidy should be removed is on the ground that those marketers were collecting or taking this fuel in Nigeria and importing to nearby countries and selling at the rate where it's expected to be sold there, thereby using Nigeria fund to enrich themselves. Now, if that is the issue, is there no system that can be put in place as a nation to see how we can curb such excesses? Because it's begging the question, if you have noticed that it's a few guys making money out of the subsidy regime and the poor are not really feeling the impact, why not go out there and see how this thing can be stopped? Because most times, until we build system as a nation, until we confront the problems headlong, we are going to keep allowing the common men on the streets suffer for nothing. So subsidy, I think if there are arguments so far has been that a few persons are benefiting from it, so the detriment of others, then why not look at those persons and fish them out?
Okay, we actually look at that because the question is, if these persons exist,
yes,
are they not answerable to the law? We'll be looking at that when we return back after this break. Let's quickly take a short break now. We'll come back and take it up from there.
TMI, every opinion counts.
It's still this morning on ITV, reaching you live from our network studio. From Benin, we are looking at the issues, challenges, and the way forward out of the subsidy removal dilemma. Joining us live from Lagos, Nigeria is Dr. Emmanuel Oshoteku. He's also a global affairs analyst. Dr. Emmanuel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now let's just quickly get your feel. Subsidy has been removed from May 29th. Looking at the removal and its impact on our economy, how does it affect our economy?
All right, thank you so much, Ben, for that question. So let's look at it from the origin, right? This subsidy removal started like around the 1970s, especially during the Obasanjo regime, around like 1977, where the Price Control Act was enacted, and that was how it started. And if you look at it from then, Nigeria actually consumes over 70 million of liter of fuel daily. That is, out of 200 million population, we consume over 70 million of fuel daily, right? Yeah. So if you look at it from the angle of subsidy, so what is the most subsidy itself, right? Basically, it is just the government support to provide easy access to fuel for its citizens. So, for example, let's say fuel ought to cost, let's say, 500 naira, then the government pays some certain amount of money to some certain few elite or some certain few people, so that the population or the citizen can have access to cheap and affordable fuel, right? But so far so good. There have been a lot of advantages and disadvantages of anything related to fuel subsidy. So let's look at it from first, the advantages first, right? Number one is that it leads to affordable fuel prices for the consumers, for the citizens. So people can easily walk in and buy fuel at 150. There was a time in this country we buy fuel for as low as 1 liter for like some naira or something like that. Later it moved to 150. Now we are buying close to 600 to 700. Nobody's complaining because Nigerians are known as strong. They have thick skin. Nigeria can survive anything, but that doesn't mean that it is good to go, right? Also it links to economic growth and development with the subsidy in the economy, right? Because the government is the pain and the burden upon the people and take that to themselves. But there are disadvantages. So far, so good. I think that when Tinubu took up the subsidy removal first week in office, that felt like a bold move. But at the same time, I think there was no proper planning to see how they can ensure that the citizen don't suffer for too long. So it is one thing for us to know, okay, we're going to be paying fuel. If there was a plan, there was an address that for the next 6 months, we're going to be buying fuel at this amount. Or for the next 1 year, we're going to give us 12 months, just to settle. Well, you can't just take off subsidy and then
from the first day in office.
On the first day in office, that is not. Yeah, it might look like it's a good step, but at the same time, a lot of people can't survive that because Nigerians were not ready for that at the early stage. So I felt there would have been a proper address to the nation. You have never addressed the nation yet in office, but you have removed subsidy. So that caught a lot of people unaware. And one thing about the Nigerian spirit is the hustling spirit of every Nigerian. Everything goes high in Nigeria, nothing comes down. And that is one of the fears that we have about this government.
We'll still get in touch with Dr. Emmanuel in Lagos, Nigeria. Now, we were with you and trying to look at some of this impact. Now, do you think Nigerians have the patience to wait for the government? Because to an extent, people are saying things are on the high side. And the government is saying, don't worry, we'll give you palliatives. In some part of the state, we've seen Kaduna State and other states trying to roll out palliative. will the government sustain these palliative measures?
And to start with, palliative is not meant to stay for a very long time.
Recording in progress.
Can you hear me loud?
Now, we'll get back to you in a moment. We're trying to establish connection with you. We'll get back to you in a moment.
The concept of palliative has always been temporary. It's not something that should stay for a long time. Now, when you give palliative, it's like giving a paracetamol for somebody who is feverish. It is expected that for some time, let's bring down the effect. It is not to deal with the injury in itself. So we don't expect palliative to stay for a long time, and we also don't expect palliative to be the solution. Now, in other countries, for instance, where subsidy has been removed, such palliative, when they come, they are more detailed than what we see in the, most times in Nigeria, what we do is that we hear people do things, we just copy over there and try to replicate here. And most times it doesn't work like that, because we have different people, different environments. For instance, in the UK, because of the inflation, there are instances where cash transfer is made. You get it. But when you try that in Nigeria, it won't work. The reason why that won't work is because the system is not prepared to allow that. Because you are going to see politicians submitting the names of those that don't want it. But over there, they have statistics. They can tell those who are really the poor of the poor. But here is the persons that the politicians feel. You belong to our political party. I want to reciprocate for whatever you did for me during the election.
So you think there will not be fair in distribution?
It has never been fair.
It
has never been fair, and it can't be fair in this country. No, it won't be fair. That's the truth.
Dr. Kenua, you wanted to add something to that. You think our politicians are not going to be fair in distribution of palliative?
You don't need to give out handouts. All those palliative, it's not the solution. Just the government needs to subsidize the fuel and then aggressively pursue revitalizing all the refineries. We have about 4 refineries that are just comatose. They are not producing any fuel. That even Dangote is not in operation yet.
No, Dangote just started. We should give you benefit of that. He just started.
Yeah. No, I mean, where NNPC, Warri, Port Harcourt, Kaduna, what happened to those refineries? We are an oil-producing nation. Fuel should be subsidized heavily. Fuel shouldn't be sold at more than 100 naira per liter, if not less. That's how you have to drive the economy. In the U.S., the government drives the economy. It drives the economy. Once you remove that subsidy, all other sectors, they just
follow suit.
The time, let me address what my colleague said about Obasanjo. We were about 75 million during Obasanjo's time. But now we are 220 million.
Yes,
you can't keep the money Obasanjo paid out was very meager then. But now you have to pay out much more.
Compared to the population strength.
And the consumption.
Yes.
Exactly.
The refinery, if you want to bring those refinery back to life, it will not take more than 6 months for crying out loud, and they will repair those refineries.
Okay,
and I have been proposing that those refineries, the government should encourage the formation of a corporation and then sell out the shares to all Nigerians. Even many of us abroad who would buy those shares, and then they would run the refinery like a business. So you see, the NNPC right now, or whatever is managing those refineries, they just get salaries. They just get salaries.
Without working for it.
Without working for it. Nigeria is spending so much money, that because it's government,
So, but if it's handed over to individuals, are you saying if we give it to individuals? Okay. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, are you saying that if we hand it over to private individuals, we'll have a better refineries?
Yeah, you see, not just private individual, but not just full private.
Okay.
No individual should own more than 20% of the shares.
Exactly.
You don't want monopoly. You
Exactly.
see, even a Dangote refinery is I'm not going to say it's dangerous for the nation. You know, it's going to be dangerous.
Okay, let's quickly take a feel from Dr. Emmanuel. It's like he's actually concurring to what you're saying. Dr. Emmanuel Soteku.
I agree. I agree with what Dr. Obaseki said, because I feel that monopoly is one of the biggest issues we have as an economy. You know, the Dangote effect is a huge is a huge danger to the economy. Not that it's bad, nothing is wrong with that, but at the same time, nobody should be so powerful to own over 80 to 90% of anything in the sector, because it's not good for the economy. I feel that there are other solutions that we can start looking at. As a nation, number one is looking at alternative energy source. Right, we need to start thinking about alternative energy source if we're going to be able to mitigate what is currently going on with the fuel subsidy removal. Because now nobody should be told that solar is an alternative powers, inverter and all the stuff. As an economy in Nigeria, we have a lot of sun. So although that market is already booming because of the high cost of fuel, everybody's already
even before now. Some people are planning towards that aspect.
Exactly, and I also feel that the government could have educated the public, right? Like I said earlier, education is very good, sensitization is very, very good. Enacting such a stuff at the first day in the office without proper education to the populace is dangerous. So, and that can lead to public unrest, right? And you can literally see that high cost of transportation. Government could have also come up with a program plan to say, okay, you know what? One of the solutions we're going to do, that we're going to reduce the cost of BRT buses, especially in Lagos, because Lagos seems to be the center of excellence. That because one of the reasons why, one of the impact of this fuel subsidy removal is on transportation. It's because transportation is powered by fuel, and I think that the Lagos government is already working on alternative power. So they're trying to do electrical cars, electrical buses. But Nigeria, there's no power also. So if you're going to be doing electrical,
if you provide electrical cars and it breaks down one day on Lagos Island
somewhere, where would it be charged? Because there's no light. So I can't be driving, and it's also risky because this Nigeria. What if I'm driving at night and then the battery just goes off or something happened?
Maybe you now need a generator in your boot, probably.
So we need to start thinking of solution, and also we need to start thinking of diversification. It's very, very important because for me, I think that one of the most important things about this fuel subsidy removal is the fact that enacting it on day one of office is not the right way. In fact, in other nations, the way they do this thing is that they do gradual phase out. They do gradual subsidy removal. So it's not going to be boom once. They do it,
in phases.
Beats, because it's always in phases. That's why they call it gradual phase out. Because if it is done immediately, it has a bad effect on the economy. Today, some people can never recover. If you check, one of the biggest disadvantages is that the income of an average Nigerian is not increasing in any form. The income of the salary that you are earning last year is what you are still earning this year. But cost of living has increased. So you see that it also leads to people to start doing what they're not meant to do. So corruption is high on a very high margin, because people now need to think of how to do to other people to be able to survive. So somebody earns 80,000 naira at work as of last year before Tinubu coming to office. He's still earning 80,000 naira, but maybe spends, let's say, 30,000 naira or 20,000 naira for fuel to work, maybe transportation every month. This person is literally spending times 3 of the same money to work, and the salary is still the same. The cost of living is high. Things in the market is extremely very high because everything revolves around transportation, around fuel, around movement.
We'll be getting back to you in a moment. You'll be taking us through other aspects where Nigerians can dive into as an expert to survive in this time. But we'll get back to you in a moment. Let's quickly return back to Israel Adodo Esquire. Now, you are a legal practitioner. What happens to those guys? We talked about the cabal. Is it that we have a judicial system that doesn't go after persons that should be brought to book?
No, when we talk about judicial system, most times the judiciary only work with what is given to them. The judiciary as a court, for instance, they are
We
there
are not
sitting,
hearing you.
and when you bring matters to them, that's what they attend to. So most times, until
We
these
can't
people
hear
are caught, investigated, the matter is not taken to court. So the problem remains that most of those things are political. You get it?
Even the ones that are brought to court, at the end of the day, they'll just find a way of getting away.
You know, when investigation is very shallow, you know, at times when you insist that a matter will go to court, what the investigators do is to see how they can kill evidence. When there are political backings and there's this insistence that no, it must end up in court, you kill evidence. And the court is only bound by what is before the court.
Evidence, yeah.
So the judicial system is very effective, but the question is there a political will? Is there a political will to stop? You know, because until the people in the helms of affair are willing to seriously take these matters up, because we can't. It doesn't make sense if our complaint is that the cabals are the one taking fuel, they are trafficking it out of the country, selling at the same price and making money and increasing our consumption rates, and yet you are not looking at the problem. You are not looking at other ways to just stop it and not considering the fact that what will become the effect on the people. So I think there should be a political will. If there's a political will to stop it, yes, it will.
Okay, let's quickly come to Keno Obaseki now. The governor of Edo State recently said he doesn't really understand the subsidy removal plans of this government. He's a sitting governor, and of course, as a stakeholder, do you think such blame game scenario should be coming from an executive governor of a state?
It's a financial
Expert.
financial wizard, because his background is in the area of finance.
So instead of blaming the government of the day, which in a way directly is part of those of the opposition, don't you think it will not be bad if he start putting things in place to prove the government wrong?
He's probably also airing his opinion. You know, like I said, Tinubu made the same mistake the governor of Central Bank made. Just changing the money overnight. You saw what that did to the economy. Almost collapsed Nigeria. And this fuel subsidy removal will destroy Nigeria. I wish Chief Anthony Naro was alive to see his protege what he's doing, because we were all together in this pro-democracy movement. And I saw the role Tinubu played, you know. He was in the forefront, down to the government, This is what we do. But now you are the government now. Look at what is happening. You know, I think the people advising him, they are advising him wrong. Because you don't just start off the first day and destroy what you want to repair. It is very obvious that things are not working. People are starving, and he is basically stunts the growth of Nigeria economy. The problem, as I said before, is cabal. Those who will just sit down looking for a way to rip the country off in the area of industrialization, rules, everything, until we are able to tackle the problem of the cabal. Nigeria is going nowhere.
Okay.
That's what the past. I thought I heard the U.S. ambassador say, Nigeria, they know what to do. We know what to do. We simply not doing it.
Okay, we'll return back to you. So we'll be taking the final lap from your end. But let's quickly get to Dr. Emmanuel Oshotuku, who is an economic expert. Dr. Emmanuel, I'd like you to help us now. Many Nigerians want to know how they'll survive. That is the main thing. Survival is the main thing now. What are other areas where people start looking into to support themselves? Quickly help us out now, Dr. Emmanuel.
So in Nigeria right now, it's I don't want to say it's a sin to depend on one stream of income. You know, if you live in Nigeria, especially now, one of the things that might come into us, or what I do basically, is to help people move their company to globalization, like from local to global, meaning that at this level right now, you should be able to earn in hard currencies if you're in Nigeria. An average person to be able to start thinking of what are the products and services that can render to people offshore that can make me earn in foreign currency. So right now, you should, if you are a writer, for example, just give an instance, you should be able to put your book on Amazon to be able to make money on anything that can give you money on the hard currency. Because right now, if you look at the devaluation of Naira, because all these things have also affected our Naira, right? Naira literally, that is the highest currency. 1,000 Naira, that is the highest currency of our currency, is now the lowest currency of the US dollar. $1 in US, which is the lowest currency, is now maybe apart from cent and all so. Like $1, which is the lowest currency of a nation, is now the highest currency of our own nation. It's a disaster on its own, right? So one of the things I would advise people to start thinking of is alternative ways of making money, stream of income, so that you can use what you earn in pounds, in dollars, in Kuwait, or in any other currency, so in rand, yuan, to counter what you currently your living expenses.
But Dr. Emmanuel, hold on. Talk is cheap.
Yeah.
How is some of these explanations?
Sir, I didn't hear that.
Do you think it's that easy?
It's not that easy, but at the same time, that also leads me to education. You see, people don't know. So if people don't know what to do, how to earn in foreign currency. For example, I'm an author, right? I'm just giving. I'm an author. Writing and not. Dangote doesn't have passion for cement. Not that he's passionate about it. In Nigeria, is in this country I say that people will say I'm passionate about this thing. This is what I'm doing. To make money, you don't need to be passionate about what you're doing. Business is business. I don't need to be. I don't like writing, but I had to write. Why? I wanted to put my product on Seller, on Flutterwave, on different platforms to be able to earn. And I literally just sold a lot of my property, my book stuff online, like literally to earn in hard currency. I have courses that people take outside the country and pay me in dollars in different currencies. I'm not saying it's that easy, but everything is still boiling down to education, where people are taught on how to create alternative stream of income. As a citizen, it's going to be an advantage to us. Also, digital literacy is very, very important to this, because the funny thing about this thing is that there can be a digital payment system created by the economy or by the government to really give to people who cannot truly afford subsidy, that cannot to subsidize for those that truly need them. There's a digital smart card that can be created. All these things boils down to education, like I said earlier. So education, digital literacy is very important, because if you're going to make hard currencies and you don't want to go through corruption, or you don't want to go through, the politicians have this hard currency. That's why an average politician is not concerned about what is happening in the country, because he has stock of cash in dollars in hard currency. So if Naira becomes 2,000 Naira tomorrow, he's not checking, because he has alternative money in his hand, which is cash. But an average citizen doesn't have access to that kind of cash. So the first thing to do is to break the barrier through education, create digital literacy program for people to have alternative stream of income to be able to earn, to counter where they're currently living, as far as Nigeria is concerned.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's quickly come. We're taking your final shot now on the show. What's your final take as we begin to wrap up?
On my final take, I'm sure we should be looking at the way forward. Okay. All right. On the way forward, like Dr. Emmanuel said, I think it's time for everyone to brace up. Everyone brace up. One source of income can no longer hold water. It won't work. Then, even while doing that, let's look at the part of the government. It is important for the government to wake up and also see how you can put things in place to ensure that the citizens are not always at the receiving end. In other countries where this has happened, we've seen that such money is reinvested. Let's know the plans for whatever you are going to save through the subsidy policy. Are you going to reinvest it in transportation? Are you going to reinvest it in agriculture? Are you going to reinvest it in education? Because in some countries, it is reinvested in energy, electricity, reinvested in agriculture, reinvested in health care. You understand? So the government should come out genuinely. There should be effective communication. Let's know what the plan is. That, okay, if this one comes, we'll be saving it for the next 6 months, the next 1 year, and the agenda is to build a working refinery. Or if this one comes, the agenda is to ensure that all Nigerian citizens have access to good health insurance scheme. Or if the money comes, when we talk, let's talk about palliative, for instance. When we talk about palliative is more than trying to get a bowl of gari
and rice,
a rubber of no
and beans.
There are ways. Now we have market women who goes to the market to get their products, and most times their problem is not getting the product; it's transporting it. Why not make provision for vehicles so that this thing can be transported to the city? For instance, in Edo State, something beautiful that the governor has done is that as a way of cutting down the cost of the employees, that's the civil servants, from spending from their post. What he has done is that he has make special arrangement for buses that picks up, that drops. Even within the service complex, there are vehicles. Now, maybe you are in a palm house, for instance, you are going to a government house, you don't have to use your personal car, you don't have to use a public commercial vehicle. There is a vehicle there that you just prepare yourself, it takes you there, and it brings you back. You have to cut down the cost of you tampering with whatever comes out from your pocket.
Okay, now, Dr. Emmanuel Obaseki now. Let's quickly come to Dr. Kenwa Obaseki. This 5 billion naira palliative measure the government is trying to distribute to states, including the FCT. Don't you think if this money is being channeled to one sector of the economy, it will help to take us out of this present state? This might be your final take on the show. Let's quickly have you.
I'm against all those palliatives. That money should be used to revitalize the Kamatus refinery and then bring them to life, and all these problems will be over. You give out 50 billion palliatives within a year or two. They will be exhausted, and then you have to give another 50 billion, again 50 billion. You see that those are handouts. Repair the refineries. Within 6 months, those refineries, they will be working, but not with the present employees of the NNPC. Get an outside consultant. They will put the refinery to work within 3 months.
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Emmanuel Oshotoku, do you think if this 5 billion naira is being accumulated and put into a particular sector of the economy to take us away from where we are now? Let's have that as a final take.
I agree with Dr. Maseki on that, because honestly speaking, there's no nation that can have good level of these infrastructures. And that is why public-private partnership is going to be the way to go, right? Like you said earlier, nobody should have above 20%, right? So for me, public-private partnership is going to go government with the private sector working in hand in hand to offer solutions, and also most definitely revitalize the infrastructure that we currently have, in the economy. Ajakuta Steel, all those stuff, the Niger Delta, the hoisted, a lot of stuff. If you can revitalize that old stuff, I strongly believe that not just the most powerful nation by paper or by mouth, but in action and in deed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel, for taking time to join us. Thank you, Colonel Obaseki. Yeah.
Exactly.
Dr. Obaseki, you were saying something. We need to go now.
I said the government should just stay away, but all they need to do is to catalyze the process of
create the enabling environment for investors.
All right, gentlemen, I'm afraid we'll be handing over to our Abuja studio now. Thank you so much for taking time to be part of the show. Thank you, Emmanuel Israel.
Thank you, sir.
For coming.